Good morning.
Good morning.
On Sunday mornings, I have been talking on this text, opening the hand of thought. I think this is a very good manual for Zazen practice for us. This book was written by my teacher, and I'm one of the translators. And this book was written when I was a university student. So I have been reading this book for more than 40 years, and I'm still studying this book. Today, I'd like to start fourth or final paragraph of page 96. Let me read two paragraphs. There is no fixed line above which we can definitively assert that a person is rich, while below it everyone is poor, since rich and poor are nothing but relative comparison. When we let go of the comparison, we will always be able to settle just as our universal self. Even though some people may call me poor or rich, they are simply comparing me with someone else and trying to put a label on me. So it has nothing to do with the reality of who I am. Returning to the reality of my life just as myself, just manifesting this life, meaning of the saying that blue things are blue and red things are red. This is the Pure Land. In this section of this book, he talks about the meaning of our Zazen practice or Buddhist practice in terms of the modern civilization. And Okumura Roshi mentioned the nature of this modern civilization, basically a scientific and technological civilization. The driving force of our activity is dissatisfaction and the desire to become better. And dissatisfaction means I don't like who I am or where we are. So we need to go better place, or we need to become better person, or we need to get more things. And so our life is based on dislikeness or dissatisfaction and the desire to get more or to become better. And because of this, our life becomes competitive, because in order to reach the goal, and we call it success, all people are running toward the same goal. So we need to compete with the others and become winner. And especially when I was a teenager, when I was a high school and university student, Japanese society was really competitive. It's a time of the economic growth, rapid economic growth. And when I was a student, I felt like my parents or teachers or this entire Japanese society request me to work hard, to study hard and compete with others and become winner. Go to go to university and get a good job and make much money. And that was our way of life. And when I was a high school student, I felt this entire Japanese society like one huge money-making machine. I often say about this. And the school is like a factory to produce the parts of this machine. And if we become a good part, we can be a good part of this machine and making a lot of money, and people think our life is successful. Otherwise, our life is a failure. And I didn't like to live in that way. So this kind of teaching, when I started to read Okumura Roshi's book when I was 17 years old, I was a high school student. This kind of teaching was really attractive to me. And I didn't want to compete. I didn't like competition. That means I didn't want to be a winner, but I didn't want to be a loser. So to me, the best another choice is not to run, not to compete. That means drop out from that society, and that was not only in Japan but in this country also. Many young people tried to drop out, and those people are called hippies. So not only in Japan but in this country, we had the same kind of a situation. So I'd like to find a kind of an alternative way of life instead of participating this competitive society and become winner or loser. That I think from now I understand why. At that time I didn't, but now I understand why I wanted to become my Okumura Roshi's disciple, even though I didn't know what is Buddhism or what is Zen and what I had to do. So I wanted to live without become winner or loser. But it's kind of difficult that some people, including my parents, said I'm coward or I'm nihilistic. But I didn't think so. I mean, when I was a high school student, and when I was in the classroom, I felt like I was imprisoned within this money-making machine. So I wanted to escape. And I often escaped from classroom and went to a library and read the books about religions, philosophy, and literatures. Anyway, so this kind of teaching that rich and poor or winner or loser is not the only standard or ruler to measure someone's life, whether successful or not successful. To me, this teaching was very interesting and precious. That's why I became my teacher's disciple and have been practicing for more than 40 years. But I didn't know what the meaning of this teaching in terms of Buddhism or Zen teaching. So I'd like to talk a little bit about this one. I don't have much time. So usually in this society, as I said, we measure people's life, whether successful or not successful, by how much money we make, or how wealthy we are, or how famous and how high our status might be. But what Okumura Roshi is saying, there's another way that has nothing to do with lose or win. First, in this paragraph, he said, there is no fixed line above which we can definitely assert that a person is rich, while below it everyone is poor. You know, in our society there are classification, upper class, middle class, lower class. And we think there are such classes. But when we take a close look at the border, border between high class and middle class and low class, when we use money or income to be which class we belong to, there might be a border which is only 1 cent different. And we have to make a line, the person who earn 1 cent less, then this person is in the lower class, and 1 cent larger than this person, then this person belongs to middle class. If we take a close look at this kind of clarification, we can understand this is not really valid in a accurate way of making such a differentiation. And this is so-called relative. That is what Okumura Roshi is saying. This is only comparison. And this has nothing to do, he said, with our actual self. Next sentence he said, since rich and poor are nothing but relative comparison, everything is relative. And also, it's not certain or guaranteed whether upper part of upper class people are happier than middle class people or lower class people. Happiness and amount of money to gain has really nothing to do. It's very, very kind of a rough thinking. If we make money, we are happier and we are a winner. But money can be something we can, how can I say, calculate with numbers. And when it becomes numbers, it's very easy to compare. I think that is the only reason we use money, how much income we have, as a measurement of quality of people's life. But that is not accurate measurement, I don't think. So he said, when we let go of the comparison, so we can let go means we stop thinking whether we are winner or loser, or our life is successful or not successful in terms of comparison. Still, we are we. So what he said, when we let go of comparison, we will always be able to settle just as our universal self. This universal self is a translation of Okumura Roshi's unique Japanese expression, Jiko, Giri no Jiko. Jiko is self, and this Jiko is also a self. And Giri means just it. So our translation, some part of in this book is self. That is only self. Self that is only self means beside the comparison with others. I don't need to compare with other people and say I'm a successor or a loser. when we think that whether my life is successful or not successful, we can tell only when we compare my life with other people. So in this expression, self that is only self, we cannot tell or we cannot evaluate whether our life is successful or not successful. We are just as we are. And yet, to me, this expression is very kind of vague and not clear what this means. And basically, I think there are, Okumura Roshi uses this expression, jikogiri no jiko, or self that is only the self, in basically two ways, without clear distinction. That is why it was difficult for me what this exactly means. Here, we translate universal self. Jiko is self, that is the self, is universal self. And I think that is one meaning. And another meaning of jikogiri no jiko, or self that is only the self, means this personal self, individual self, without comparison with others. So I am just I am. Only these five skandhas. This is one meaning. I think this is one meaning of self that is only the self. So I don't need to compare my way of life with other people. I am just I am. That is, I think that is another meaning of self that is a self. We don't compare ourselves with others. And another meaning is this self is connected with entire universe or entire, in my expression, network of interdependent origination. So this jikogiri no jiko has two aspects. One is this person only as this person is, without comparing with others. And another meaning is this universal self. And for many years, it was difficult for me to understand the connection between these two meanings of the same expression used by Okumura Roshi. That is the point I'd like to talk today. Okumura Roshi doesn't use any, Buddhist philosophical term here in these two paragraphs. But he's talking about a very, in a sense, difficult philosophy, especially by Dogen. Dogen's insight or philosophy about being and time. His idea or insight about being and time. Being means the self, and time, and not only time but space. For example, in Shōhaku Genzo, Uji, U is being, and Ji is time. And he said, U and Ji is exactly the one thing. Usually we think time is flowing from the past to the future through present. And we think we enter, this stream of time when we are born, and we live within the time, and certain time we go out when we die. This is kind of a common understanding of time and being. But not Okumura Roshi, but Dogen question about this common understanding of time and being, or about our life. for about the time, for example, in Genjo Koan, he said, using the analogy or example of firewood, he said, firewood peacefully stayed in the Dharma position of firewood. There is before and after, but before and after is cut off. This means this moment of firewood, firewood is 100% firewood. And before and after cut off means past is already gone. In the past, this firewood used to be probably lively tree. When tree was cut and dried, it became firewood. And he said when firewood is burned, it becomes ash. So in our thinking, we think this is a kind of a story or history. A seed is planted and gradually grow and become a mature tree. And tree is cut off and dried, become firewood. And when firewood is burned, it becomes ash. This is a kind of a story or a history. History and story, the same thing to me. That is our interpretation of this time and being, time and the changes or transformation of beings within the flow of time. But when Dogen said in Genjo Koan, firewood stay in the Dharma position of firewood and before and after are cut off. This means past has already gone. So that tree is not there anymore. And the ash is not there yet. Past has already gone, so it's not a real thing. And future has not yet come, so it's not a real thing. Only real thing is this firewood, Dharma position of firewood. So firewood is 100% firewood. It's not a continuation or sequence of this changing. So there's no history. And this firewood is not a preparatory stage of becoming ash. So future is not real thing yet. And when we take a close look at this present moment as a firewood, even if there is a slightest length within this moment, then we can still cut into two pieces. One part is already in the past, and another part is still in the future. Even when we say now, when I say na, u is still in the future, and when I say u, na is already in the past. So this present moment has no length. That means zero. So the past is gone, and future has not yet come, and present moment is zero. That is, I think, logically this is correct. That means there's no time. Time is only the production of our thinking to interpret what is happening within our life. That is the basic idea or philosophy about time in Buddhism. Not only time, but also, we say here, now, and self. As a now has no length, now is zero. And here is also zero. That means now, when I say to my Japanese people, to my friends in Japan, I have been living here for 20 years. This here means United States. But when I say I have been living here to my friend in Minneapolis, that means here means Bloomington. And when I say now I am here in this room, I'm not your position. So even within this room, there is here and there. I'm here, you are there. So even if there is a slightest size, we cannot say, we can divide it into two. And this is here and that is there. So actually here is like a dot in algebra. It only has position. There's no size. If there is even a slightest size, we cannot measure, for example, length. From A to B. We can measure the length, distance between, for example, Minneapolis to Bloomington. But Bloomington has certain size, and Minneapolis has larger than Bloomington. How can we measure the distance if these two, both of them has a size? Exactly speaking, people live in the northern edge of Minneapolis and the southern edge of Bloomington, or people live in the southern edge of Minneapolis and northern edge of Bloomington. The length is different. So if we really want to measure the exact difference, here and there should not have a size. It should be just a position. So there's no such thing called here. So here also disappear. And the self is the same. That is called a no self. We usually think this is Shōhaku, and I'm a Japanese, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a priest, or in this structure, I'm not so rich. In terms of financial situation, I think I believe belongs to the low class. But I don't think my life is fair. And I don't think I'm not 100% happy, but I'm not always unhappy. So there's no ways to measure such a thing, who this is. And actually, this person, Shōhaku, is simply the collection of 5 skandhas. There's no such thing called self. So self is 0, now is 0, and here is 0. This is interesting thing to me. In terms of the Buddhist teaching, at least Mahayana Buddhist teaching, that is fact means emptiness, nothing fixed. But there is another aspect of this Mahayana teachings. One is we have within this conventional time, and now we are at one time within the flow of this time, and we have one particular place, and I am one particular person. That is a common conventional understanding of here, now, and this self. But as I said, there's no such fixed self or here or now. So this is really 0. But another aspect of this reality is because we are 0 with everything within this network of interdependent origination. We are simply a collection of all different elements. That means we are connected with all beings. And we are also connected with all times within this relation as a cause and result, and cause and result. So this one person here and now is zero, has a connection with entire space and entire time. That is, so there are three ways of seeing this one reality of emptiness and interconnectedness. One is in a relative way of thinking. We are one particular place within one particular time within this flow. Another one is there's no such things. So that is zero, that means emptiness. And yet, because we are connected with everything, exactly because we are zero, we connected with all beings. That means this entirety of space and entirety of time is me, the self. So in my expression, one equal zero equal infinity. This is really strange thing to say, but I think according to Buddhist teaching, Mahayana Buddhist teaching, this is the reality of all beings, including ourselves. Does it make sense? I hope so. But I think logically, this is correct. Anyway, so when he says relative comparison, the self within relative comparison means within certain time. I was born in certain time, 1948, and now I'm living in Bloomington in 2014, and sooner or later I disappear. This is one way we see my life, and this is a conventional way. But when we let go of the comparison, this comparison within time and space, and within the society or within our value judgment, then we will always be able to settle just as our universal self. Means there's no such comparison. I'm just who I am without any comparison or value judgment, and connected with that is what the self, that is only the self. And this is the place we can really settle down peacefully. Within comparison and competition, there's no time we can be peaceful. Even when we feel our life is successful, if other people are more successful, then in relative sense, I'm a loser. I become, my life becomes failure. But if we stop, compare ourselves with others in this way, then we are just what we are. And this self, that is only the self, is connected with all beings. So there's no success and no fail. Just this is as it is. And next paragraph. Even though some people may call me poor or rich, they are simply comparing me with someone else and trying to put a label on me. So that kind of thing rich or poor, or success or failure, or good or bad. That is, according to Okumura Roshi, that is simply label. Label means the real things is in that container, and we put the label on it, just a name. So this label and inside might be different, might be the same. So we need to think both, as a label. Label is not meaningless, but label might be different from the real content, because label can be put by other people, or in a kind of a statics, whether how much money we make, and they put a label whether we are rich or poor. But real content of my life is neither rich nor poor. I stop measuring or evaluating my life depending on how much I make money, how much money I make. So I don't think I'm a loser, or my life is a failure. So it's important to, the label is not the real thing of inside of who we really are. Anyway, so it has nothing to do with the reality of who I am. This reality of who I am is the actual thing as a content, not a label. So we need to think what is the actual content of our life, not the label. In the case of Okumura Roshi, he lived 84 years, but he said he had a regular job only 6 months out of 86 years of his life. I mean, after he graduated from a graduate school, he studied Western philosophy, and he became a teacher at a Catholic seminary, and he taught philosophy and mathematics at the Catholic seminary for 6 months, and he quit because he found he couldn't be a Catholic. And after that, he became a Buddhist monk. Anyway, Okumura said that 6 months was only time he had a regular job and regular income. After that, he never had a regular job. He wrote many books, but when his books were published, instead of receiving money or royalty, he received the books and sent those books to gave those books to his disciples and the students. So he didn't really make money, and yet he could live somehow for 86 years. So he said he was poor, but he was never poor. And he was sick, but he was never sick. And he was dying, but he never died. This is from one of his poems about his life and death. The first half of each line is his life in comparison with others or in a social in a society. He was poor, he was sick, he was aging, he was dying. But another aspect of his life is never poor, never sick, never aging, never dying. In terms of this entirety or universal self, that means, the beginning of time seems like the moment of Big Bang until this moment. This is one seamless moment. When we measure the time, we make a segment like 1 hour, 1 day, 1 century, or so. But when we don't measure, measuring is a kind of a comparison. We compare the length of time we can actually feel within our life, like 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour, or 1 week, or 1 year, as the turning of the seasons. And we try to measure something, beyond we can feel. But we need certain unit, and we make separation. But actually, when we stop that kind of measurement or comparison, this moment of Big Bang and at this moment, present moment, this is one seamless moment. There's no such separation or segments. And I call this time which doesn't flow, eternity, in my usage. And that is what Dogen is saying when he said, when he talks about our Zazen practice. In Shobo Genzo, not Shobo Genzo, but in Bendowa, he says, therefore, even if only one person sit for a short time, one person sit for a short time is within this structure, within the flow of time. For a short time, this person sit, because, he said, because this Zazen is one with all existence and completely permeates all times. So we are one, or our Zazen is one with all beings within everything past, present, and future. And permeate all times. All times means this time from the moment of Big Bang until now. Or even, I don't know what is the end of this world, but until the end of this world, universe, this is one moment. That means in our Zazen, we stop comparing ourselves with others or measuring time and space. Then we are simply one with all beings and all space and all time. So it means Zazen, our Zazen performs everlasting Buddha guidance within the inexhaustible Dharma world in the past, present, and future. So what I'm talking is about Zazen practice, and what he's talking about Zazen practice. Zazen practice is the point actually we become zero. In our thinking, in our daily lives, we are living within this framework and we compare with others. And this is one way we see our life, and so we should not, and we cannot ignore. But Dogen said this is not the only way we see our life. From another perspective, when we are sitting and letting go of thought means stop measurement, stop comparing with others. Then this border disappeared. So when we become zero, we became one with all beings. Probably this sounds strange, but this is the way we view our life and time and space based on Mahayana teaching of no-self, emptiness, and interconnectedness. So, returning to reality of my life, just as myself, is in our translation, returning to the reality of my life, just as myself. This my life, just as myself, is another translation of Jikogiri no Jiko. So we translate the same expression in two ways. One is universal self. Another is my life just as myself, not comparing with others. That is when we sit and letting go of our thinking. Then just manifesting this life without labeling whether we are rich or poor or successful or failure. This we just manifesting this life force is the meaning of saying that blue things are blue and red things are red. This is a pure land. This refers to Okumura Roshi quote from the Pure Land Sutras. In the Pure Land Sutras, it is said, in the Pure Land of Amitabha Buddha, the red lotus is red, and blue lotus is blue, and the white lotus is white, and the yellow lotus is yellow. That means each things are different, and yet there's no such value judgment, value difference. Each thing has its own unique way to manifest this life force. So we don't need to make evaluation, red lotus is better than white lotus. Or not only the same lotus flowers, but somewhere in this book, Okumura said he was like a violet, tiny flower. And his teacher, Shōhaku Roshi, was a very well-known great Zen master. Was like a rose, gorgeous, luxurious rose flowers. And he felt he was like a violet, tiny, valueless flower. But he said, I don't need to compare. So Shōhaku Roshi bloomed as his flower, and Okumura Roshi bloomed his flower. That's all. We don't need to say rose is better than violet. But in our human world, there is a market value. Rose can be expensive, and violet is not even for sale. It's valueless. It has no market value, and yet as a life, and there's no difference between rose and violet. They are both pretty. That's all. So this is very kind of a radical, different way of viewing our life from our kind of a common sense measurement and evaluation, whether our life can be successful or failure, or we are loser or winner. That kind of evaluation or evaluating our life is too simple and rough. So we should see our life from, this is a kind of a boundless way, and we see three different perspectives. That is how we see and understand and try to live based on Buddhist teaching. Well, when I was a high school student, of course, I have no idea about this kind of Buddhist philosophy or Dogen's teaching. But somehow, this teaching, we can be neither winner nor loser, and I don't need to participate in such a, what they call rat race. It's really a belief, and I found the more kind of a boundless way of life. So I was really, I think I was really fortunate and grateful because I had an opportunity to encounter with this kind of teaching. And Shōhaku Roshi and Okumura Roshi actually show the example of this kind of life in their own lives. And finally, I'd like to introduce one book. This is a very new book. Actually, this book is not yet published. This is a sample print. The title is Inside the Glass Hut by Ben Connelly. This book will be published from Wisdom. And we are thinking to invite this person, Ben Connelly, to give a Dharma talk, a public Dharma talk here in October. Anyway, this is a book about one of the Zen poem written by Sekito Kisen, or Shito in Chinese, who was a very important ancestor in our lineage, and he also wrote Sandokai, or the merging of difference and unity. I'd like to introduce final 2 lines of this poem, and that is what I think exactly what, the same with what I talked this morning. The title of this poem he's writing about is The Song of the Grass Roof Hermitage. Song of the Grass Roof Hermitage. This person's name, Sekito, literally means rock head or stone head of a stone, because he lived a small hermitage on a huge rock. That's why he was called Sekito. So his poem is about his grass hermitage. And at the end of this poem, he said, if you want to know the undying person in the hut, don't separate from this skin bag here and now. You know, this undying person in the hut, in this entire, the person, one with everything and entire space and time. And if we want to know who this person is, the Sekito said, don't separate from this skin bag here and now. Skin bag here, and this is called skin bag, 5 skandhas. Here and now means within this time and space, certain place, certain time, certain condition. So this conditioned person, as Shōhaku Okumura, is actually the undying person. So what I said is a kind of a strange, I think strange, but this is my understanding of what Sekito said. He lived in the 9th century, so more than 1,000 years ago. So what I said today is not something new, or it's not my personal opinion, but my personal interpretation of what it said more than 1,000 years ago in Zen tradition. Well, it's already 11:10. Do you have any question or comments? Please.
You talked about the life force that manifests as different flowers. So life force before the flower manifests, it's one. that? How do you think?
Even those flowers are one. Those flowers can be those flowers because of the connectedness with all other beings. So when we stop comparing, then even those, this skin bag is one with all beings. Does it make sense? I hope so.
So, life force, I mean, a kind of a big understanding of life force.
Life force is something formless and universal, interconnectedness. Each of the particular flowers or skin bag is a manifestation of that formless universal life force. But with us, each and every particular thing, there's no such things called a life force as one.
No.
Life force cannot exist without particular conditioned things.
Sure. So it's not just living beings that we think they are like flowers, even rocks and everything like the
Yes.
wall and floor.
Yes, all beings.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Please.
So, this life force that manifests in the flower, when the flower is no more a flower.
And yet still flowers. Flower is no more flower, and yet flower is still flowers. Even when we sit and letting go in our zazen, this is still skin bag named Shōhaku. There's no difference. And yet, without any difference from Shōhaku and skin bag, this is really one with entire time and space.
So when the flower disappears, when the skin bag disappears, of course, it's still life force, but it takes other forms.
Yeah,
like
forms
ashes.
are different. The lively tree change the forms and become a firewood. And when firewood is burned, it becomes ash. And when ash is returned to the ground, it becomes part of another tree or plants. So forms are changing, but nothing is lost. And even when we are born, nothing is born actually. That is what no arising and no perishing in the Heart Sutra. Nothing arise and nothing perish. Please.
Probably about to provide great entertainment for everyone we can. Seems to me that the bottom line conclusion of the teaching today is that all things are fixed.
All things are fixed.
All things are permanent. And if you take the here and make it a zero, and the whatever the next one was, now and make it a zero, and the self and make it a zero. And then if you, I don't know how that gets to be one in the formula, but if one then equals zero and zero equals infinity, and if the tree remains fixed, and all the perception of the individual self, as opposed to the universal self, the self setting oneself as opposed to the, assuming the schemes and all that, 6 elements or whatever they are, which you have now sort of convinced me doesn't really exist anyway, becomes an illusion, then movement is the illusion. Our existence within the time-space spectrum breaks that illusion because it's infinity. And so if it's infinity and all things that are present have always been present, and if no death ever occurs, then the universe has to be fixed. It's as if you take the book with all the little drawings in it and turn the pages, it gives the illusion of motion, but in reality everything would have to be fixed.
everything have to be fixed.
It has to be permanent.
Why?
Because motion is illusion. If you're in space and you've got space-time coming from the moon to the earth and then continuing on, if I'm in a space capsule here and something happens, and there's another space capsule here, they're going to see that happening as it moves through space-time before I'll see it on Earth. As it moves past Earth, then whoever's further down in the space continuum is going to see the same thing. All of that is illusion and exists as one.
I think all the movement is illusion, but something fixed is also illusion.
I don't understand that.
I'm sorry.
Perhaps another time.
Okay. Okay, anything else? Thank you very much.